All righty, good evening. My name is Robert Tatro. I am the Chair of the Auburn Zoning Board of Appeals, and I am calling this meeting to order. If there are any electronic devices in the house, if you could just turn them down to a silent mode, I would appreciate it. And welcome all to the Thursday, May 16th, 2024, 6 o'clock p.m. edition of the Auburn Zoning Board of Appeals. We are live here at the Selectmen's Room at the Town Hall on Southbridge Street, 104 Central Street, excuse me. And I have a little script I have to read beforehand, so please allow me to get through that. And this is the purpose for confirming member access. This open meeting of the Town of Auburn Zoning Board of Appeals is operated as a hybrid format under Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022. The public can join the meeting remotely by telephone at 1-646-749-3112 and enter the access code 944571349. Or you can go on your computer and log on to gotomeeting.com, and in the upper right corner, there'll be a box that will appear, and you can put in 944-571-349, and that will enable you to join the meeting remotely. Again, my name is Robert Tatro, and I am the chair. Please allow me to permit that we have all of the people on the agenda this evening here and present, and then we'll proceed from there. When I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Vice Chair Michael Marin.
Present.
Richard Cussy.
Present.
Mr. Chicolo.
Present.
Megan Roach.
Present.
Caitlin Bush.
Present.
And Ryan Garabedian.
Present.
We have a full board this evening. Thank you very much. Town officials and employees participating. When I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Jesse Averka, Land Use Coordinator.
Present.
Gary Allard, Building Commissioner.
Present.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So we also have the note that we have taken the, we'll be conducting all votes by roll call, excuse me, and please note that this meeting is being recorded by Auburn Cable Television. So also, I want to point out that we had a couple of technical issues over the last few months, so we had put a note on the hearing notification. If technological problems interrupt the virtual meeting, the meeting will continue in person here. We feel as though we have adequate documentation to maintain that, so we're not interrupting the applicants or the town board's time. Okay, so with that being said, I have all of those things taken care of. Let me go to our first hearing. So we have a 6 o'clock p.m. applicant, Quality Worcester, requesting a special permit under section 3.2.2.1 of the Auburn zoning bylaw to construct a two-family home on property located at 7 Maria Ave, Auburn, Mass., map 11, parcel 145. And again, this is a continuation from both 3/15/24 and 4/18/24. And I see that the applicant is present, so I'm going to make a motion to open the hearing.
Mr. Chairman,
We'll continue with the hearing.
if I may, no motion is necessary.
Thank you, you're right.
The second.
Okay, so what we have now actually is a couple of different newer pieces of information that I think I want to say thank you to Ms. Roach, first of all, for spending some time in her own time researching all of this and finding out some information. Gary also wrote pretty extensive history of how this whole application came place, so we received that today. And we also have an opinion from town council on whether we should proceed with a special permit or what that special permit should be under, and if we're going to switch it over to possibly other options. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to turn it over. So, Ms. Roach, I think it might be best if you explain to bring us all up to speed where we are now.
Sure. So I think just definitely a thanks to Attorney Hennigan. We had, through Darlene, we had reached out to him asking for some clarification on whether or not a special permit runs with the land. I think this board has always treated it as a special permit, did not. And after reading Attorney Hennigan's letter, I think it's clear that as long as the special permit is acted on within the specified amount of time, which he writes in the letter, and as long as the use in which it's granted continues, that special permit does in fact run with the land. In our instance, we've issued a lot of special permits for accessory dwelling units, in-laws, I guess, let's just say. And our bylaw specifically says that that type of special permit does not run. It has to be reapplied for. So I think that may have been a confusion, myself included, for all of us with this. I think we thought maybe this should have been a variance request. But after reading Attorney Hennigan's letter, I think it's clear that the applicant has the right permit in front of us. It would be a special permit. A two-family is only allowed in that district by special permit, and if it's granted and recorded with the registry, as long as the permit is acted on within the specified time and the use continues, it would run with the land. So I think the question of whether or not when he sells it, something happens, I think that's resolved. That being said, we also, I think for the first time, if everyone has the plans that like fold out, the one that is almost like a two-pager.
I'll share yours, so I'm saving.
This is the plan, and I'll share with Ms. Bush too. So this is the plan that at the last meeting, we did not have. Mr. Goodman had indicated that he had recorded it back in November at the Registry of Deeds. That was absolutely accurate. It was recorded in November of 2023. And it shows how this lot is made up of that 19,000 square feet. It shows Lot 2R that touches the road and has the frontage. And that back piece is essentially what he added to this lot to get to his 19,000, just over 19,000 square feet that's required. We didn't have a copy of this at the last meeting. I think there was some confusion about what the lot looked like. And if you look at the other maps that we had before, the one that is only one page, it was kind of hard to make out where he picked up the rest of that lot, but you can see there's that skinny, almost like a pathway in between that connects. So I think there was a lot of questions, myself included, on what that new lot looked like, what the shape of it was. There's no question it's over the 19,000 square feet. But this is the first time that we as a board have seen this one. But it was recorded back in November when that lot was approved. I think another point of clarification is that this plan was approved by the planning board for the sole purpose of creating a new lot line. That's what planning looked at, that's what they approved. Them giving approval to this new lot has nothing to do with the two-family being put on there. It's just lot lines were moved, he needs to go to planning in order to do that officially. He did, and he recorded this plan. But they did not make any opinion as to whether or not anything with the two-family, that's our job. Okay, so I think those were some kind of questions. Why was planning involved? What was the result of that? Was it recorded? Do we need a variance? So I think those are the couple first things. And then the building commissioner so graciously gave us sort of a timeline of a list of everything that had happened to kind of clarify. There was a lot kind of going on with this. So if you look at his timeline of when Mr. Goodman, originally got involved, it goes in chronological order as to when he purchased it, when he came and pulled his permits. My understanding is that Lot 2, well, on our big plan, it says Lot 2R, the original piece that has the 100 square foot that's close to the land, that has had a land disturbance permit pulled, that he originally came with that and asked to put a single-family house on that property. That is the original permit that was pulled. He asked to go forward with a foundation-only permit. Sometimes your plans are not ready yet, and you can ask to do a foundation permit, and certainly, Gary, if I'm incorrectly stating the facts, feel free to jump in at any time. He came and asked to be able to put the foundation in because the plans were not yet ready. My understanding is sometimes that is allowed. And as we all know, plans, work, architects, everything, timelines can often get jumbled up. So that foundation-only permit was granted without the actual plans, because it wasn't a building permit per se, it was just the foundation only, so that was allowed. Then the foundation was put in. When the building permit was pulled, then is when it came to light that it was actually going to be a two-family, not a single-family.
Was there a permit pulled for a single family? Was that?
For a foundation-only, single-family, that's correct, yes,
So a single-family permit,
yes,
okay, and then to go to the two-family, that permit has to be closed out and a two-family permit applied for separately.
yep,
So they are not the same. So we applied for a single-family.
Yep.
That's being closed out, which we're in the process of. It got a little difficult because of the land service permit, and in fact, the lot line changed while the foundation was being put in, or in that proximity. So I have a foundation now on a Lot 2, and Lot 2 doesn't exist. So that's just paperwork that we're clearing up, and I figured I'd wait till the decision was made here as to how I did that on my end.
right. Originally, it was Lot 2 when he first bought it.
Right.
Once he changed it to the larger size lot, it became Lot 2R.
Yeah, well, he bought Lot 3 afterwards, and then he cut land off of Part 3.
Right.
In the back that was able to create the square
To
footage
make
for it.
2R, yep.
If I may.
Mr. Chairman, if I might ask a question, the permit was given for a single-family house,
Single-family foundation,
single-family,
not a home necessarily. This-
Well,
the original
it was
permit
designed,
was put forth,
designed for a single-family home. The permit
Right.
intent was yes.
single-family home.
Okay.
Yes,
Subsequently, because things weren't ready, there was a request to have a single-family foundation put in. Okay? That's the only two things on timeline, right? So there was a single-family home, a single-family foundation, but a two-family foundation was put in without permit. Is that correct?
that's correct.
That's correct. Okay. And at what point did the applicant say, oh, now I need to switch the original permit to a two-family?
That was on February 1st of 2024. That's number 11 on
number
our
11.
list of timeline. In February of 2024, the permit application was then pulled for a two-family. And that's when the original thought, or the original ask for the two-family came forward to the town.
Okay. And
Did we ever get the question answered as to why you put a two-family foundation in? When you only had a permit for a single-family foundation?
So, I had touched on this previously, but, so the dimensional requirements are met for a two-family. And I was unaware at the point of time that it needed a special permit.
You were aware that you needed a special permit to have the foundation put in, right?
No, sir, no. So when I put in the foundation, I applied for the permit for a two-family, and that's when all of this came to light. I was not aware that I needed a special permit.
Back up.
Okay,
You knew you needed a special permit,
incorrect.
and then you got that
No, sir.
originally.
No, sir. Okay. So I was in the process of, I was gonna build a single-family home. I pulled a permit to build a single-family home. My surveyor had told me that I could do a two-family if I had the the correct amount of square footage, and I submitted an A&R plan. I got that approved, which meets all the guidelines for, you know, to be able to do so, as already stated. I started putting in the foundation. We did the two-family because it met all of the dimensional requirements for a two-family. I was unaware that there was any special permit needed for a two-family at any point in time other than in February when I pulled the permit. No, I'm going to finish answering.
You're
In
getting
Feb-
ahead of where I want to go. You've got a special permit to put a single family up.
Incorrect. I got a permit to put a
Now,
single family up.
Did you apply for and receive
Yes, sir.
a special permit
Incorrect.
to put in a foundation?
No, sir. I applied for a permit, not a special permit.
A what?
Just a regular foundation building permit. It's
And you
done.
received that?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
But you decided to put in a permit, excuse me.
Yes,
You
sir.
decided to put in a two-family foundation.
That is correct, yes, sir.
Okay?
Yes, sir. So,
Thank
but I
you.
was unaware, the first time I became aware that I needed a special permit for it was after I applied for the building permit. If you, in almost every other town, if you meet the dimensional requirements for whatever is in your table of contents for what you're able to do, that is allowed. So as long as you meet all of the requirements, typically you do not need a special permit. It's usually stated in a different facet. I was unaware of that, and it was my complete and utter mistake, which I've said throughout every time.
Mr. Chairman, if I could follow up on Mr. Chacola's point, because something that was troubling me.
Can I just interrupt for 1 second, though? Just in terms of procedure, we just started with the explanation of what was going on with Ms. Roach, and she eloquently, and thank you very much for
Oh,
that,
yeah, no problem.
described and brought us up to speed where we were. I just want to make sure that we are procedurally following before we start with the application.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman.
Because, and again, I think there's a lot of discussion here that we've spent, I'm just trying to remind the board that, you know, we vetted this for like, this is the third month now, and I'm just trying to there's a couple of points of clarification that I think we can work through too, is before we proceed, is that he applied for a single-family regular standard permit. And then when he realized he had the potential to build a two-family home, at least in my humble interpretation, is now he realized and he said, oh, I need to apply for a special permit because I want to do the two-family. So I agree there might be a discrepancy in timeline, and I'm just trying to work towards that, but this is what I'm reading out through here.
In between that time, though, did he apply for a permit to put the foundation in?
Yes, so, okay, let's just back up. So
Yeah, I mean,
if he was
that's
putting,
my point. If I could
if he was putting a single family, just a single family, he would only need a permit from Gary, a building department, nothing from us. He applied for that. When the surveyor came out there, the surveyor says, hey, you have all this land around it, you can add to get to 19,000, and you'd be able to put a two-family on this. So, the way I understand it, then Mr. Goodman puts he already owns the other land. He starts to chop up the lot to make his new lot, he pours his foundation. He comes to Gary to get the special permit. He comes to Gary to get his building permit to do now a two-family, and he is told he cannot put a two-family there without our approval, without a special permit.
Right. So let me make the point, though, that I think we well understand how that developed and what his thought process was. But, and I'll direct it because we were in open hearing. So through the chair to the applicant, you knew that you needed a permit to put the single-family foundation in. I understand, and I've heard you eloquently speak to why and what you thought in the reference to other towns. But what I can't reconcile is, why then did you not go back to the town before putting a two-family foundation in and amend, recognizing that the only permit that you were operating under at that time was a single-family foundation permit? Why did you not go back to the town and ask them if you needed a permit for a two-family foundation? Special permit language aside,
Yeah,
and I
yes.
understand you came
Yes,
into the
sir, yeah.
awareness of that, but what I can't reconcile is your inability to see why you needed a different permit than you were holding to move forward and drop a two-family foundation in.
I understand your question. So the answer to your question is, it was an oversight on my behalf. I did know that I was putting in a two-family foundation. I was under the assumption that it met the dimensional requirements, and I didn't need a special permit.
Respectfully, sir, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but you did know.
Okay.
You knew at the moment they were
Can I
pouring
finish?
that foundation
So, I can't-
that it was gonna be a two-family. No, but I wanna be clear on my
Yes,
point.
that is 100% accurate, and I did just state that. But please let me, as I let you finish, I'm trying to answer your question. And so typically, if you switch out your permit, like when I apply for the superstructure, and it's a because that's what it's called, when I apply for the actual building permit of the house, if it was a single family and now I apply for a two-family, it just rolls into that. You know, I've done this before I did it not too long ago in Worcester. We were gonna do a single family, we ended up doing a two-family house, but it's apartments, it's first floor, second floor, it's not a duplex, it's a first floor, second floor apartments. And it's not an issue because it meets the dimensional requirement. So is it all my fault? Yes, it's all my fault. Did I screw up? Yes, I did screw up. I'm not saying that I didn't. You're asking me a question, I am explaining to you why. You are correct, I did not do it maliciously. I didn't think it was gonna be an issue. I met the dimensional requirements. I thought it was just gonna roll into you pull the two-family permit, then I've got the permit to frame the two-family house, which is a duplex, the way that it's set up, and then I close out the permit, and that's it. That was my thought process behind it. I was not maliciously trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes or do anything. I started one way, we changed the circumference of the lot. I thought I was gonna be able to just roll into the two-family and just keep moving. That was the plan, but obviously, it was a bad plan. We'll say it that way.
Mr. Chairman, if I might try to be sure of this, something. The limiting factor was the permit for the single-family foundation previous to the other stuff that you needed to have happen. So when you applied for a permit for a single-family foundation, not the single-family house, that is the limiting factor. You were limited and bound by that permit, were you not?
I think we have to take that question as hypothetical. I wouldn't see anything in
I don't think it's hypothetical at all, with all respect.
No, I mean,
Mr.
I would
Chairman.
not expect a response from a member of the board, is all I'm saying.
What the permit itself,
The permit itself that I obtained was for a single-family foundation-only permit, yes.
you keep talking about that permit, and I'm referring only to when you went back and said you wanted to put, I believe in the timeline, Ms. Roach, that you went through, there was a second occasion of a permit for the foundation.
It was, he applied for it, and then he got it about a month later, I believe, is why Ms. Roach mentioned it twice, correct?
I'd like to just correct one thing,
Yeah.
the permit that applied for was for a single-family home.
Right.
That was what the application was for. So it's not as if it's only a foundation. When he applies for that, we will sometimes, okay, we have a single-family home, we've agreed on that, and we will start the process and just limit it to you can only put the foundation in until the plans are in and reviewed. So in other words, the process has started for this, for it to be completely a single-family home, and the foundation does not, it is specifically stated a single-family home, so I would assume that there were some plans drawn, something for that, or we were intending on putting a single-family home on that, or why would we have drawn single-family only on that plan?
Because at the point in time that I applied for the building permit, I didn't have an A&R plan, and that was the permit I could apply for.
So you knew it was a two-family?
I was gonna do it, yes, I knew I was gonna do it.
And you decided to pull a single-family permit, taking your two-family foundation and saying single-family, and I can see their confusion on this, because, you know, where's the plan for your single-family? We're waiting for that, and you never even intended, so I think that kind of clarifies a little bit of the confusion, I think. Or maybe made it more confusing, I don't know.
So if I can through the chair, I think the best thing to do maybe just for a second is maybe table the timeline situation, because I think for me, there's other issues on the lot itself. So I'd like to ask Mr. Goodman a few questions if I could through the chair.
Please do so.
So I understand you have the 19,000. But in my opinion, this law is horrendous. The whole point of requiring 19,000 square feet on a lot to put a two-family is that so, I don't necessarily care if it's a square, but is so you have room around the house, so you have yards, you have area. This is a cut and paste to get what you need, but the house itself on this little piece is awful. So why isn't this lot line down here, the one at the bottom that is, I can't read the first two, but it's 27 inches, I can't read the feet. Why isn't this, where that 50 feet of frontage is on Maria, why isn't that part of Lot 2R instead?
That's a separate lot. That's a different lot altogether. So there is a guideline within which it's called the R factor that you have to meet. There is a guideline which is called the R factor that you have to meet when you when you A&R a lot. And so, if you meet the guidelines, it is the planning board, but if you meet the guidelines, and you meet the math, then that's all you have to do. It's just, it doesn't have to be in a particular manner, it just has to meet the R factor guideline, which is set out by every, planning board or land development, whatever whatever y'all call them. The guy's name's Adam in this town, but I believe it's the planning board is the one that signs off on it. And as long as you meet their math, which this meets their math, that's why it was signed off upon, that's the requirements. So it does meet the requirements for your town to divide off land. And then above and beyond that, it does meet all of your setback and frontage and all other requirements to be able to do a two-family house on that lot. All of the guidelines that are set forth in your town bylaws are met 100%. There's ample parking, there's ample square
Well,
footage, there's
Technically,
ample side lot.
respectfully, it's not, or you wouldn't be here.
I'm sorry?
I mean,
Well, no, so that's incorrect. Technically it is, but you require a special permit even if you meet the zoning bylaws that for what you need dimensionally. So that was my discrepancy, which was a huge discrepancy, again, but it does meet all of your zoning bylaws, it does meet all of the guidelines that are required for this particular town, set up by your particular board. The only thing is that it does require a special permit, and so, here we are.
so you're not willing to change the dimensions of the lot?
How am I,
Because for me, a two-family on this lot makes sense if you have a whole 150. If this line is pushed way down and you can go in the middle and it can have side, that building is literally squeezed right on that lot. That doesn't meet what that neighborhood is like. It's 19,000 square feet, I'll give you that. But it's 19,000 square feet because you added 10,000 square feet to a back. How wide is that path right there? At that time, 5 feet.
it's 15 at one and 5 at the other, but yes, 5 feet, yes. I didn't make the rules. I didn't just.
But you could have cut this lot differently. You could have made this line all the way down so that Lot 2R had much more side room and given it a better, I understand that's not what you did, But I think we have the authority to look at the lots for this exact reason. This piece up front is not big enough for a two-family. You're essentially sticking the house on a lot, and you have a 5-foot path in the back, which can't even fit a car, and adding essentially junk, unusable land to the back. This is exactly why you need a special permit from us. I don't want to waste any more of your time, and I'm certainly happy to have further discussion, but this lot is not a go for me. And I don't want to waste any more of his time. Honestly, I think the timeline about what he pulled and when he pulled, for me, is irrelevant. But
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
it's just me.
Please, go ahead.
I mean, I appreciate, thank you for the research that's been done and the things that have been brought to the board by our members. The timeline does matter to me, but I do accept your explanation of, look, mistakes can happen. And I get it. And you're in the business, and I'm not. Many of us are not. However, what I was trying to reconcile with the timeline and recognizing that, you know, when you step through this, being in the business, it would have been just a reaction, a visceral reaction to go back to the town, in my opinion, and say, before you poured cement, recognizing that you could put yourself in jeopardy without the proper permit for that, why you would have poured that foundation. And that may be, you know, a bit naive and still understanding the process with the building commissioner, but, you know, from that perspective, it was, you knew that you were pouring a foundation without the proper permit for it, in my view. And maybe I need to learn more about the A&R piece of this that was filed afterwards. But one of the things that you had shared that I want to call credit to is that you're right. You know, as long as it meets, you could close your eyes, and as long as the numbers line up, it meets all of our guidance and our guidelines. But it does matter what it looks like. I mean, you're proposing putting a home, and my colleague on the board said it much more eloquent than I will, but you've created the appropriate dimensional size because you added 5 feet of junk space in the back of it to meet those dimensions, while cramming this on a single-family lot, in my view, to be blunt. So, Mr. Chairman, I want to be balanced in my judgment of this, and I think it's fair to explore. What happens with this lot if, in fact, this application fails? We've got, in town, a 2-family foundation sunk in a lot. And if this...
Well, the applicant has a recourse of action by just going and taking us to court.
Oh, great.
So, I mean, there's always an appeal process beyond us.
No, understand that,
I
but
think, and also, he could come back in theory, I'm not agreeing or not, I'm just, again, this is just discussion, that, you know, there's a possibility of a different application. I don't really know. You know, but I agree with all the points here. I think that the problem here,
I mean,
the more we dig into this application, I feel as though the more layers seem to appear.
where I was going with the premise of my question was succinctly that there's been, and I'm not insensitive to the fact that there's been a considerable investment made in this lot already by this gentleman. He's got a solid 2-family foundation. That's an investment. And so I was just looking to explore, you know, if this were not successful in the application before us, I mean, are there any other alternatives to salvage?
No, court.
Okay.
Or build a single family.
Or build a single family over that foundation. But I don't think that even would be, that's not my expertise, that I would even stretch the imagination that could be legally done.
I agree
Here's the
with-
one thing I would like to stand on also, though. I want you to consider things here. And if, for the folks at home that can't see this map of Colonial Road and Maria Ave here has 2 specific lots that are circled in blue, and they both say not to be considered a buildable lot. Rear portion lot is not to be considered a buildable lot. So, with that being said, are those 2 lots also yours, sir?
So one of the back, right-hand far corner is part of that land.
Right,
It's
so
it's
this
part,
is-
it
Right.
belongs to.
No, I understand that, I see
Right,
that.
It's just, it's.
What I'm
an-
asking you is the one directly behind, circled in blue, not number, I can't see, it's three, it looks like 350,
3R.
3R.
3R is mine as well, yes. Yes.
Okay, so again, what would be the problem with taking the 30 feet off of the other side of it? If it's not buildable anyway? And again, I'm just trying to look at it from a perspective of what does it physically look like with two unbuildable lots next to it? Is it that much of an eyesore in the neighborhood? I think that's significant too.
The abutters, it's tight.
It is.
I agree with Megan 100%. That's why that's why you need a special permit, so that we can actually look at lots like this and say, you know, you're only utilizing 10,000 square feet and putting a monstrosity home in a neighborhood with small homes. It just doesn't fit. That's my feeling, you know.
Okay, I mean,
I mean, it meets.
I'm open to any suggestion. Again, I agree with, all of these things are, you know, the totality of the circumstances here. With the foundation in the ground, again, you said this gentleman is making a large financial obligation already. There's permits that have taken
Could
place,
be.
and now we have questions about those.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I open up the question, Mr. Chairman, is what are the alternatives? I understand litigation is a path for the applicant, but, you know, maybe we can ask the building commissioner to weigh in on if there are any other alternatives.
Well, you know, when we saw this application come in as a single family, you know, you look at the foundation, it doesn't make sense as a builder, I said, and that foundation is not out of shape or form or anything for a conventional building. I mean, you have your main house on the side, you have the breezeway or whatever between it, and the garage on the other side. I go, that's, as far as a single-family house foundation, don't feel that the foundation has to be torn out or anything like that. That's a very usable, and that's why the permit was issued. Because, you know, he wrote specifically on it, single-family foundation, gave that to us. I've been a builder most all my life. I looked at that, yep, you know, Cape House is out of the Cape typically. The large house there, the breezeway between, the garage on the other side. And this would lend itself to even, you know, an accessory dwelling unit on the top of that.
So you're suggesting, if I may, Mr. Chairman,
You may.
you're suggesting that the existing foundation that this gentleman's put in could in fact be utilized for a single-family home?
I wouldn't have issued the permit had it not been.
So did you inspect this after it was poured, thinking that it was a single-family foundation? Did you look at it after the foundation was poured?
When I inspected it for the foundation in itself. I really didn't pay any attention to the fact that he actually stuck the wall in the middle, creating the two garages. But that, and as far as I could say, that could have been an addition off the kitchen on one side, the breezeway on the other, so it still could have been a functional thing. So no, I did not pay any real attention as to where it was going
There was no
during the
house on
foundation
land.
process.
So in your estimation, sir, this essentially could be utilized for a large, single-family home?
Absolutely, very easily.
Thank you. And, Mr. Chairman, that's why I opened the question just for thought on what could be done.
Understood. I thought when you addressed it to me, I assumed you thought from the board's point of view, what would the next course of
Oh,
action be?
well, you know what, I was thoughtfully, I was asking actually in both points.
And
But
I'm
maybe-
glad, no, this is the whole point of this. I'm glad that we spend the time to get to the bottom of things. This is what we're supposed to do. This is why they let us do it.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think, and you know, with reservations on the timeline and how it developed and reservations on developing a two-family on that lot it's situated, but I do appreciate mistakes are made. I mean, that's, you know, I mean, that's the reality of it. And we've heard explanation more than once from the gentleman on he was aligning with, you know, requirements that he's met in other towns, in other municipalities when he's done this work. And so I get it. And I acknowledge the fact that he's invested money. I also acknowledge the fact that he's fully, you know, owned the fact that he likely should have stepped through this earlier differently. But the reality is, what is he looking at now? And
Well, I think they are, and again, okay, just to summarize what I've heard here this evening, would be that he has, again, as I mentioned, he had the possibility, if he wants to continue with the duplex project, to bring us to court, and they can determine whether or not we, you know, ruled on it appropriately, or he can come back with a regular standard permit request with a new set of plans for that foundation, I would assume, without prejudice. We don't necessarily have to prevent that from happening. Because if he meets other requirements, he could come back with a different type of permit. Gary?
And just one other note that I know that you're looking at the plan that says that the lower parcel not to be considered a buildable lot. And that does not mean that that is not a buildable lot. Okay, and that's, I believe, intentionally why the 50-foot is left there, because that does gain the access for that to potentially be another lot.
I understood.
So
Yep.
don't think that's just gonna be just vacant derelict
Well, I was
land
thinking
down
for
there.
the purpose of special
that-
permitting, if we would allow it, again, looking for answers, that we could say those lots are not to be built on.
That could be a hammerhead
I mean,
lot,
you
is
know,
what you're
Right,
saying.
exactly. There are ways, as far as I know,
And
that,
this room.
he'd have to go for planning and it all depend on how they viewed it, but.
No, but fair
It
point.
just lets you know that that's why that 50-foot is being kept open, I believe.
Okay, so why then, thank you for that, because then why then does this specifically say is not a buildable lot to the limited access?
At this time, it's not.
You don't have 100.
But it could be modified, okay,
Right.
understood.
It
doesn't have
doesn't it doesn't have the frontage, and use a hammerhead provision.
Right,
And there's special requirements you have to meet. I can't say it
No,
isn't
no,
a
no,
buildable
understood.
lot.
No, thank you though, but that's
I'm just saying to
an
say that it's absolutely not is not
It's
true.
not, right, it's not absolute. It could be a
Right.
potentially buildable lot in the
Right,
future at some time.
absolutely. So just don't look at it that there's no way that it could be built on.
Right.
That's an excellent point.
But it's also an
Come over
excellent
here,
point
though.
that,
I feel bad, I have my back to you. Ms. Roach, do you have anything you want to add?
no, I think I'm pretty clear on where I stand.
I really want to go around the board here to make sure, because we've covered a lot of ground, but not everybody has really participated too much, so, Vice Chair Maron, do you have any other questions, concerns, comments?
I don't, but I would, with all of the discussion, once you go around the board, Mr. Chairman, before we close the public portion of the hearing, is give the applicant an opportunity to share any additional information after hearing our discussion.
Oh, absolutely, yep. Mr. Cussy, sir, to you?
No, I stand on, the lot is just awkward, and, I agree with Megan that you're only utilizing, the 19,000 square feet is supposed to be to spread it out, obviously, and, we're just cramming it on a small lot, and now looking at the lot aside of it with 50 foot, like Megan brought up the point, why didn't you move it over? I feel eventually that there'll probably be a hammerhead there, you could have another two-family right there. I don't like it.
Okay. Mr. Chacolo?
Agree, like everybody else has mentioned, that we're squeezing it in. However, there's no way you're gonna prevent that because that foundation exists right there, as if there had been no modifications made. So you can have a big side yard, but you're still gonna be squeezing in a two-family.
But if he meets the required, well, we're not necessarily going to, well, okay. Maybe I can have one of the other board members speak to that. Because I think if we let him, if we say to a two-family, then, it's continuing as is. If we say no and he comes back with a different design.
Agree. I should have prefaced my remarks by saying, if you let it exist as a two-family, it's still gonna look squeezed in no matter what. Like I said, you'll have a big side yard, but you're not gonna move the foundation as it exists now.
But you're not gonna have a side yard if something goes here.
No, I'm talking about right here, even if you
Even
got
so,
this
For
piece.
that purpose, he must have met the setbacks, though.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
on the
Yeah, he
special
does.
permit
Oh, yeah.
setbacks,
He
so
meant, yeah, he does.
Even if it might be squeezed in, it still meets the required setbacks regardless, so.
But the reason for a special permit is for us to take a look at.
100%, and I'm just making sure that we are focusing on the right
Yep.
thing. All right, so anything else, Mr. Chacolo?
No, I'm just gonna go back to what I said, that limiting factor was his permit. That being the case, you don't ignore a permit. You don't ignore a permit, what the permit is for. You don't, when we issue special permits for a supplemental apartment, and we hold that factor, the limiting factor to 700 square feet, plus or minus, we expect the applicant to abide by that permit, not put in a 1,200 square foot apartment. Okay, or in this case, if I were to double it, a 1,400 square foot apartment. So that limiting factor of the permit is something you have to abide by.
Okay, good. Anything else?
That'll do.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Garabedian, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm glad to be back.
How's school going?
Going pretty good. In summer break finally, so.
Oh, good for you. Well, I'm glad to have you back.
Yeah, glad to be back. So I just echo what the rest of the board has said about the lot. It feels like a very technical 19,000 square feet with the back lot there. But I do want to try to pin down the timeline just real quick. So you got the A&R on November 14th, correct?
It was in November it was recorded.
Okay.
I don't know the exact dates.
Okay.
14th, yeah.
But a couple days later was when you got the single-family permit, right?
So the permit was applied for before I got the A&R plan.
Okay.
I believe that to be, my recollection of it was that I applied for the permit, we got the A&R plan approval, and then from there, I applied for the building permit in February, yes.
Okay. That's it for me.
Ms. Bush, all the way over there, how are you this evening?
I'm good, how are
Are you
you?
hanging in there?
Here.
Any questions, comments, concerns from you?
I don't have anything else to add. I echo the lot is awkward, and I think that's like my hang-up on this is the shape of the lot, but I have nothing else to add.
Okay, thank you very much. So to the applicant, sir, you heard the board's opinions. Do you have anything you want to seek clarity or add to? or-
I mean, if I could work out something, I'd be more than happy to work out some type of something. I mean, the foundation's in the ground, either way, it meets zoning bylaws as a single family, not as a two-family, but it meets zoning bylaws as a single family. I could pull a single-family building permit tomorrow. It's not gonna change anything. Something has to be built at that location at this point. That's how it is. I would prefer to, and honestly, I think that the plan that I have, I revised it based on other comments at the other meeting. I like it more. It fits in with, there's about 100 houses in that neighborhood, and about 60 of them have a second floor, dormer cape type of deal going on, or some type of second floor to them. So 60% of the neighborhood, it's in line with that. Obviously, it's two connected together, which is not in line with any other building in the neighborhood, but I thought it came out nice. Personally, I would like to continue with my plan. It makes more sense fitting a single family into that because the garages are in the middle. I don't really know how I would do that. I've thought about it, kicked it around. I'm usually pretty good at figuring out a way to do something. It doesn't really make any sense on how to connect it, like, cohesively. Like, I can build this and build that and put two I don't know. I don't know how to connect it together that makes any real flow and sense to how things work in most houses. But, something will transpire, but I would obviously prefer to go with the plans that I have. If we can come to some agreement, that would be great. If not, then we'll see what the future holds.
So I think we've chewed on this quite a long time now, and if anybody has any objection, I'd like to make a motion to close the public portion of the hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public portion of the hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you. So we'll do a roll call vote. Vice Chair Maron?
I approve.
Mr. Cussy?
Approve.
Mr. Chacolo?
Approve.
Ms. Roach?
Approve.
And myself, I approve, but also for the record, for training purposes, Mr. Garabedian?
I'd approve.
And Ms. Bush?
I approve.
Okay. So, with that being said, do you have any other discussions, or is there a motion on the application?
I pause, Mr. Chairman, to see if any of my fellow board members have any additional discussion. But for me, I would make a motion to deny.
All right, so right now I have a motion from the vice chair to deny on the table. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, so we have a second. I have to take a vote. Vice Chair Maron, how do you vote?
Deny.
Mr. Cussy?
Deny.
Mr. Chacolo?
Deny.
Ms. Roach?
Deny.
And unfortunately, I'll vote for deny. So, sir, what you'll have for choices now is to resubmit an application with a standard permit and a different type of plan on the foundation, and that will be worked out with future meetings with the, Department of Inspection Services.
So there's nothing I can do with y'all to make this work?
There isn't.
Changing the lot
The vote was
line?
to deny the permit, so there's no more modifications, no more discussion. It's a closed matter at this point.
All right, have a good night. Thank you.
Okay. Do I have a motion to close the hearing?
Mr. Chairman, a motion to close the hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. So Vice Chair Maron?
I approve.
Mr. Cussy?
Approve.
Mr. Chacolo?
Approve.
Ms. Roach?
Approve.
And I vote to approve. Mr. Garabedian? And Ms. Bush, just for the record, right?
I'd approve.
Yeah, I know. I'm just, again, I'm trying to keep you involved. I don't like to have, you have to sit on the sidelines all the time. All right, so we have a couple of other small items that we have to deal with. Let me go back to this. The 6:05 PM applicant, Dennis Sneed, requesting a special permit under section 9.3.12 of the Auburn zoning bylaw for an accessory apartment located at 35 Coolidge Street, map 57, parcel 136. This is also continued from 4/18/24, and we were informed this evening that the applicant has decided to withdraw the request due to personal circumstances. So do I have a motion to accept the application withdraw for, as I just read for the 6:05?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept the withdrawal request as stated.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Excellent. Mr. Maron?
I approve.
Mr. Cussy?
Approve.
Mr. Chacolo?
Approve.
Ms. Roach?
Approve.
And I vote to approve, okay? So that has been withdrawn. The next step is on to the minutes. We have the minutes from 1/18/2024 that include myself, Vice Chair Maron, Mr. Cussy, and Ms. Bush. So do I have a motion to accept the minutes from 1/18/24?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from 1/18/24 as stated.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Bush.
Oh,
Oh,
I
no,
can't
I'm sorry.
second.
Yeah, you can't second. I
Sorry,
thought- I
I'm
just
sorry
heard the
about that.
voice.
Sorry. I guess, yeah.
I heard, and I was like, oh, okay.
Sorry
yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
That's okay. Believe me, I make more mistakes than all of you combined. It's
I think I
okay.
had COVID.
So I have a second, and so my Vice Chair Maron. Approve. Mr. Cussy.
Approve.
Ms. Bush.
Approve.
And I vote to approve. Okay. So the minutes from 3/21 include myself, Vice Chair Maron, Mr. Cussy, Megan Roach, and Caitlin Bush. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes for 3/21/24?
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to accept the minutes as written for 3/21/24.
Now do I have a
I'll
second?
second.
Okay, so Vice Chair Maron.
I approve.
Mr. Cussy.
Approve.
Ms. Roach.
Approve.
Ms. Bush.
Approve.
And I vote to approve. Minutes from 4/18/24. This includes Vice Chair Maron, Mr. Cussy, Megan Roach, Caitlin Bush, Ryan Garabedian, and J. Lawrence Chacolo. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from 4/18/24?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from 4/18/24 as written with a full House vote.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. So Vice Chair Maron?
I approve.
Mr. Cussy?
Approve.
Ms. Roach?
Approve.
Ms. Bush?
I was not.
Mr. Garabedian?
Approve.
And Mr. Chacolo?
Approve.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So another issue we have with other business is a discussion for remote and hybrid meeting format. So again, Ms. Roach, performing her due diligence in off hours, was able to determine that as long as we post it properly and inform people because of the, the ongoing technical difficulties we've been having, that this will be to satisfy the notification that we can continue with the hearings. But what has to happen, though, is that we have to agree to it as a group and send it over to the Board of Selectmen for their approval as well. So even though we could use it this evening, we need to still get their official stamp of approval on it. So what I would need is a motion if I'm doing this correctly, to...
Well, I think, through the chair, I think we need to have a discussion about whether or not we want to continue to allow remote participation as a
okay.
board. So if we don't allow remote participation, that means that neither we nor the public would participate remotely. They'll still be taped, of course, they'll still be posted like they always have been, but we need to decide if we want to allow any remote participation and stop with the hybrid. So the meetings would be in person, that's discussion between us, I think we need to take a vote. And then, yes, then it's gonna go to town manager and BOS for them to agree with us or disagree with us, or have the powers that be approve. But I think certainly because of some of the technical issues that we've had, and I think sometimes that extends the length of the meetings, I think personally, from my perspective, I think it's time to have no more hybrid. That would be my preference. Everybody can certainly voice theirs, and I think we have to take a vote. But from my understanding, we need to do it, discuss it, make an opinion, and then send it above our head in order to make that official in the coming months. I don't know how long that will take, but.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this item forward, Mr. Chairman. And so in the last meeting, this topic was brought up because we were at risk of losing a very lengthy meeting, based on technical and based on the wizardry of our technicians and folks that were here to support us. They brought us back online and truly rescued the day. But trying to avoid that in the future. And this note on the agenda, I was very pleased to see, because we had learned through an applicant's attorney last time that this was actually being utilized by a neighbor in Worcester, that this was how they were getting around technical difficulties, to say, you know what, we're not going to stop our meeting, we've got a disclaimer, it's put up there, we're just going to continue if in fact it drops off. But I'm glad to see this discussion expand further than just that note, because, and I'll offer my opinion very briefly, but I think the remote participation had a use. I mean, we all went through COVID. I mean, it was a very unusual time. It had a use. I, for one, and I'll personalize it and be selfish for a moment, I enjoyed taking these meetings in my office with a cigar late in the evening. I found it, I didn't have to groom closely, and anyway. So I won't bore you any further, but I did enjoy that time in my office with a cigar very leisurely. However, I think that time, I think it's run its course. I don't think that we have the need to provide that utility. And as other board members have said to me privately and collectively, quite frankly, there's a value that we can get together and an applicant can see us in person and we can see them. And we can have that dialogue in person. So I would also be in favor of sending up to our appointing authorities the request that we disband remote participation altogether.
Okay. Any further discussion? Mr. Cussy, your thoughts?
I agree with getting rid of it.
Okay.
Mike and Megan did a wonderful job.
Mr. Chicola, your thoughts?
Agree totally.
Okay. Mr. Garabedian?
I disagree. I think hybrid is a great option to extend the small d democratic principles of local government. Local government is the most important level of government for the people of Auburn. It affects their daily lives, and having a hybrid option out there allows them to participate wherever they are, be it they're on vacation, they're stuck at work. I, for one, I commute to school in Boston, as you guys know, and the reason I wasn't here last semester is I had class right at 6. The semester before that, I had class that ended at 6. So hybrid allowed me to still participate in this despite my long commute, despite my awkward hours. And I think hybrid is a great way to keep allowing people like myself to be involved in their local government.
Thank you very much.
Valid point.
Ms. Bush, your thoughts?
I mean, I see it both ways, because I'll expand, I mean, there's applicants, I think, with kids, and it's hard, I think, sometimes for them to get out of the house, so I think the remote option is good for them. I mean, conversely, I do think it's good for us to just be able to discuss in person as well. But I do see the value in remote for certain applicants, certain people and, I mean, it's hard for me to say that we get rid of hybrid completely, but that's, yeah.
I see all those points too.
Sure.
Ms. Roach?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't disagree. I don't think it changes my personal opinion. I also think in the past, when we've, just from a standpoint of efficiency, there's been times where we haven't had we have a full board and 2 alternates, and that hasn't always been the case. So if somebody was sick or couldn't come, having the remote option, makes the meeting still able to go forward. But I do think there is a lot is lost in translation with the meetings, with sort of the flow and the consistency. So I do agree with both of their points. I don't think it changes my mind. And I think having the amount of people that we have on the board, it still allows us to be efficient with having the number of members. We're usually good at communicating. If Mr. Chacolo is at his happy place in Aruba, he says, I'm away, and we know he won't be here, so we know we'll need an alternate. So I think we do a good job at communicating who will and won't be here. I certainly think if it was going to prevent us from going forward as full voting bodies, I think that would be a concern, but I think we have enough members now for that. So I think I still keep my original position that I'm ready to drop the hybrid.
So I would agree with both sides of that coin, so to speak, is that I would like to drop the hybrid as well. However, I recognize that we have, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and we have other things where, accessibility has become, sort of maybe more challenging for other people. I'd like to see it more of a non-binding, and if it's needed, then we can use it. So if we have somebody that's not accessible, for some reason, and they have to have it, I'm okay with it. But as far as the board concerned, I think that if we come here, and as Megan Roach had, just spoken, that, if 2 people don't show up, we can still cover it, We have, a pretty good active board. So as far as making it non-binding and not required for the board, I think that would be great. But I think if we keep it at least electronically in the background, so if somebody does need it, we can set it up and use it.
It makes sense, if somebody has a request,
It could be somebody with a handicapped bathroom that actually can't get out of their house, and maybe they want to be able to speak on their behalf. I'm just like, I don't know, but.
Mr. Chairman, it does make sense. I don't know how logistically we would navigate that, because I think we need an infrastructure behind that to be able to jump in if there's a request such as that. They need to be set up for that.
Yeah, I think it has to be
I'm
an all
not-
or nothing.
I'm not discounting. I think that Mr. Garbidi and Ms. Bush did an excellent job of eloquently explaining that there are those that could really use that option. It doesn't change my opinion either, though. And I take full responsibility of being just the far too old-fashioned kind of guy in the room.
Yeah.
I mean, if I prescribe to, you can't have 2 priority ones. And so, because if everything is a priority, then nothing is a priority.
Correct.
And so you've got to choose. You've got to make hard choices. And if it's important enough, this is just how I roll. If it's important enough, you show up. And if it's your first priority, then you show up. It doesn't mean that it's not your first priority, but if you've got competing priorities, you have to choose. And that's why we have the alternate scenarios and those kinds of things. I respectfully, not that I don't like to see the folks that support us in town with the infrastructure run around, but because I know we well fund that. But in all honesty, I think that it would be logistically difficult to put them on standby, so to speak, in a scenario like that, unless it could be easily done.
Right. Okay. No, again, I think whatever the board agrees to, I'm fine with it, either way.
Those are great points once again. Yeah, it's a tough, you know what, we got by for many, many years.
Right, I mean, we did it before COVID. That was only in
Before
place
COVID, and
for
this,
COVID.
You know, this worked out nicely when we needed it, but
What we can't,
I could-
Mr. Chairman, what we can't get rid of, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what we can't get rid of is the access to folks watching it on television.
No, that's not enough.
Because I will tell you that my fan base is on now. And so we're not taking that Thursday night away from them.
That's a state requirement I think, as far as I understand.
Oh, yeah,
So
no,
that's
I
not-
agree. It
that's
would
not
just
that we
be
could do, but-
the remote access for comments, basically.
I don't know if they want us to take a vote, or,
Could I ask for input from the town side on that?
sounds like we need a vote.
If somebody was
I went
available,
if
just to
you
kind of,
started watching, remember?
Thank you. So I appreciate the discussion, these are all great points. But because, it has been challenging the past several meetings, we're looking at it as just being able to respond to your request. Obviously, we don't want technical difficulties, and we've made a lot of changes to try to mitigate that. I think you may recall, we brought in electrician. We no longer have all the wires. We tried to make that, improve upon the technology part of it to decrease the technical problems that we thought were causing that. And we have, obviously modified the agenda and tried to get the information that you have requested in order for you to make a decision how you want to move forward. The only thing that I would say and offer for you, when we post the agenda, we have to be clear on how it's going to be. So obviously, through COVID, for this past several years, we've always had the hybrid agenda in accordance with how the state required it in the beginning, and now, you have the option. So you would have to decide if you want to continue doing the hybrid. We don't have to do anything, but if you want to do something different than that, that's what I would respectfully ask. If you collectively come up with a recommendation, whether that be a vote or so forth, then I can bring that to the town manager and Board of Select Board to be able to present to them. And then it's my understanding that they would review that if they have to consult with town council, and then be able to give you an opinion back. I hope that helps.
Thank you very much for your time, I appreciate that.
Yeah, because if I recall correctly, when the state requirement dropped off, we were allowed to continue if wanted. We took a vote then, and we voted to continue.
Right, that is
it.
correct. Yep,
So
I
I
agree.
think a vote again is in order, and we'll pass that along to town council and selectmen and see what they say.
I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to discontinue the hybrid format of the zoning board of appeals meetings. Is that formal enough?
I think that's formal
Okay.
enough. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second as stated.
All right, let's do a roll call vote. Vice Chair Maron?
I approve.
Mr. Cussy?
Approve.
Mr. Chacolo? Ms. Roach?
Approve.
Okay, and I vote to approve. So this does not mean this is canceled. This means that we are going to have this proposed to
Yep.
the selectmen for approval and the town manager.
Yep.
So we can stay tuned at a future meeting. But for the record, Mr. Garabedian, you want to record your vote?
I deny.
Right, okay, I just thought so. And Ms. Bush, because the alternate, but you still do want to record your vote?
I'm still like wishy-washy on it, but, I'll approve it.
Okay, so we got one, and, all right. So I believe then that, to be sure that the town side will then prepare a brief to send to the selectmen's meeting, correct? Excellent, and that was received in the affirmative, just so you know, for the town side, for the record. So thank you very much. Okay, so we cleared up the other business, we've taken care of our minutes, and we've taken care of our 2 hearings here. All right, so the next meeting is June 20th, 2024. Do I have a motion? I want to make sure all hearings are closed, correct?
Yes.
I just want to make sure we didn't skip any. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, I think we can do a group vote on that part.
Yep.
I think so.
There you go.